Who would you consider as the most badass person in history? Diprasad Pun, the Gurkha who took out 15 to 30 Taliban single-handedly when surrounded. Witold Pilecki, a Polish resistance fighter who voluntarily went to Auschwitz to get intel on what was happening and then proceeded to escape, survived the war and was later executed by the USSR. Helga Meyer, also known as God's Rambo, a Danish special forces officer who bought a 1972 Camaro and turned it into an armored beast so he could deliver humanitarian aid in war-torn Yugoslavia during the civil war and ethnic cleansing. Raoul Wallenberg. During WW2 he posed as a Swedish ambassador and confidently lied through his teeth at Nazis for years to save tens of thousands of Jews from the Holocaust. There were instances of him flagging down trains bound for death camps, and yelling at the machine-gun-toting SS men that Swedish citizens were on board, handing out homemade fake passport documents to as many Jews as possible as he went. He got away with it for so long because fascists have a thing for confident authority figures. The guy was captured by the Red Army in '45 and likely died in a gulag. Not that long ago, but still. Alison Botha. She was raped, disemboweled and nearly decapitated. And she survived to meet her attackers in court. As she pulled herself up, her head started to fall backwards since she had nearly been decapitated. Meanwhile, she could also feel something slimy protruding from her abdomen, her intestines. She had to use one hand to keep her organs from spilling out and the other hand to literally hold on to her own head. If that's not the most badass person that I've ever heard of, I don't know who is. Galvarino. He was a fierce Mapuche warrior that had both of his hands chopped off as punishment when captured by the Spanish during the Arauco War. Rather than slaughter Galvarino, the Spanish sent him back to the Mapuche to send a message. But instead of causing the Mapuche to surrender, it had the opposite effect. Galvarino decided to have two knives lashed to the stumps where his hands used to be. He learned to fight without hands while using the knives as weapons. Less than a month later, Galvarino fought with the Mapuche against the Spanish again. Around 3,000 Mapuche warriors engaged 1,500 of the Spanish on November 30, 1557, at the Battle of Malarapué. Although they didn't win, Galvarino killed several of the Spanish before the army of 3,000 were all killed. Witold Pilecki volunteered to Auschwitz death camp and escaped it to report what was happening there to allies of Poland. No one gave a frock at that time. Peter Fruchen. He was a Danish explorer, journalist, author and anthropologist. He is widely known for his exploration of the Arctic Circle and discovery of vast areas of Greenland. He was an indigenous rights activist, having married an Inuit woman. He escaped a death warrant issued by the Third Reich for punching Nazis, received an Academy Award for the Best Motion Picture in 1933, won the $64,000 question as a contestant on the game show. He wrestled a polar bear and won, and as if this all wasn't enough, he escaped a near-death encounter in a blizzard by fashioning a spade out of his own frozen feces. Nancy Wake. So skilled as she was nicknamed the White Mouse by the Gestapo due to her elusiveness in avoiding capture. Highly talented in espionage, she worked as a spy for the French resistance and the Special Operations Executive to take down the Nazis. One of the more highly decorated women from WW2, yet not well known. Maria Oktyabrskaya. Her husband was killed in World War II, so she sold all her possessions, bought a T-34 tank, and went into the army. Edit. Technically she sold her possessions, donated the tank and then asked to drive it and was allowed. That one Mexican lady who hunted down the cartel who killed her daughter. I probably wouldn't consider her the most badass human in history, but she's up there. That teenage girl that was the sole survivor of a plane crash and made her way through the Amazon. She's definitely up there. Edit. Thank you everyone for telling me her name and teaching me more about her story. I want to give her the respect and add her name. Julianne Kopka. And thank you for the rewards as well. Canadian Rambo aka Leo Major. Dude liberated an entire town in the Netherlands by himself while injured in WW2. U2. B. F1 UFVA 8 LC. Mary Vincent. She was attacked with an axe in an attempted murder, losing both hands and then dumped off a cliff. She survived and walked almost 3 miles to go find help, all when she was 15. She's in an episode of I Survived, and her story is unbelievable. She is such a BAMF. N.M. Wikipedia. Org. Wiki. Mary Vincent. Artist. The Russian Night Witches. They flew in slow, outdated planes, without parachutes, and dropped bombs by sight alone. Edit to add, not using bomb sites, at night. The woman who killed the hitman her husband hired to kill her. Battle of Stamford Bridge. The lone Norse axeman single-handedly held up the entire English army. Napoleon. Fokker got half of Europe declare war on him, not France. Him himself. Robert Smalls. He escaped slavery, stole a Confederate boat, sailed away to freedom, and later served in Congress. IDK if it's true but a story about a kid getting his limb bitten off by a shark. The uncle was with him. The uncle dragged the shark out of the water and retrieved said limb from shark. Believed the kid made a full recovery. Ben Solomon. Dude was just a dentist who got drafted into World War II. He was tending to injured soldiers when 4 Japanese soldiers entered the tent and killed a man he had just saved. This man killed all 4 of them, then grabbed a machine gun and fired upon the incoming Japanese forces, letting the injured escape. They say when his body was discovered, 98 enemy troops lay dead in front of him. He had been shot 72 times and bayoneted over 24 times before he died. What a legend. Simo Hyh. The White Death. 500 kills in WW2. Got half his face blown off by an explosive bullet and tried to get back into the war. N. Wikipedia. Org. Wiki. Simo %C3% A4YH% C3% A4. Leo Major or the American who shot down a Japanese Zero with his pistol while parachuting. Edit. I think I missed a comma. I was talking about 2 people because they were both really badass. Maybe not the most, but definitely an honorable mention. Stanislav Petrov. The man who saved the world from an all-out nuclear war in 1983. Edit. Thanks for all the awards guys. Sir William the Marshal. 1 RST Earl of Pembroke. The baddest man alive at a time where only hard men lived long enough to see their hair turn gray. Widely considered the greatest knight to ever walk the face the earth. Defeated over 500 knights in tourney combat. Is the man the code of chivalry is based on. Defeated the greatest knight in France. Handily. In a one-on-one duel at the Battle of Lincoln in 1217. In his motherfucking 70s. Effectively ruled England off and on through his regencies for decades. Signatory of the Magna Carta. He gets my vote. Mad Jack Churchill. No relation. On D-Day. He stormed the beach armed with a broadsword and a longbow. He has the only confirmed kill with a longbow in World War II. At one point he was captured, escaped, and later found playing his bagpipes. Dude was a frocking legend. Admiral Yi Sun-sin. He alone stopped the entire Japanese invasion of Korea during the Imjin War. His country, the Joseon Kingdom at that time, were riddled with corruption, and they offered little to no resistance to the Japanese when they landed on Korea. It was due to Admiral Yi's constant victory at sea that crippled the Japanese supply lines and forced them to retreat. Audie Murphy was pretty damn badass. Christopher Lee. Not the most badass person that ever lived but definitely one of them. Dude fought Nazis and was knighted. Also was in a metal band and has been in lots of movies. The factual Captain Morgan. Frockett. Everyone's mentioning historical figures and people who made the news, but I want to nominate my dad's cat who took buckshot to the chest, shattering his leg and leaving gaping wounds in his chest cavity, who then played on literal survival mode for a fortnight before making it home, with an infected, gangrenous almost, hole in his chest. The buckshot just barely missed his heart from the vet's inspection. He got anesthetic whilst they cleaned up the infection and closed up the entry and exit wounds. He lived a relatively long and very happy life afterwards with his peg leg and passed on from old age. Rip Puds. Harriet Tubman. She was barely 5 feet tall. Experienced spells. Because of a traumatic brain injury. Repeatedly snuck into the South to free slaves. Was a spy and lead an armed assault during the Civil War. Tank Man of Tiananmen Square. Leonardo da Vinci. He was so incredibly far ahead of his time. Alan Turing. Single-handedly saved millions and had to live a miserable life after. Edit. I've been informed that the saving millions part was a team effort. Medicine Crow. Absolute unit. Lyudmila Pavlichenko or Lady Death. The Soviet WW2 sniper with 309 confirmed kills has to be up there. For some great reading, try Badass of the Week. Seriously, it exists. Duncan Hamilton. The man who won the 24 Hours of Le Mans while drunk. Boudica. A Celtic queen who lost her kingdom when her husband died and his will was ignored by the Romans. She was flogged and put into slavery. Her daughters raped, so she raised an army that very nearly ended the Roman occupation of Britain. She brutally took down almost 80,000 people, either Roman or people who'd succumbed to their rule. You can still see the ruins of Verulamium next to the city of St. Albans, and the layer of ash from when the city was burnt to the ground was visible to archaeologists excavating the site. One of the stories of her death was that when the revolt failed, she drank poison to die free. Edit. Spelling. Raoul Wallenberg, Swedish architect who saved 7,000,900 Hungarian Jews during the Holocaust by buying buildings and declaring them sovereign Swedish territory, giving said Jews Swedish passports, and then bullied Nazis into letting them repatriate to Sweden instead of being shipped off to Auschwitz. He was eventually disappeared by the Red Army, and later given honorary citizenship to the US, Canada, Hungary, Australia, and Israel. He was also designated as righteous among the nations. Look up Johnny Kim, still a young man, relatively, Navy SEAL, medical doctor, and a NASA astronaut. Roy Benavides, this mad lad. N.M. Wikipedia. Org. Wiki. Roy Benavides. TLDR. Jumps out of a helicopter in Vietnam to save a team of soldiers that was ambushed. Not only did he save the living soldiers, he also got all of the dead soldiers out too, while he was taking on a lot of injuries. Oh yeah, he forgot his rifle when he got on the helicopter. He did the first part with just a pistol and a knife. This is a hero. Rasputin was a scary sob, and reportedly a hell of a hard guy to kill. May not deserve the top spot, but he's up there on the list. Assuming badass isn't restricted to good people. Florida man. The legend grows every day. Olga of Kiev slaughtered all the rulers from the nation that killed her husband and literally burned down an entire village just because she felt like it. Smedley Butler was awarded 2 Medals of Honor, then during the Depression almost got a bunch of WW1 veterans, who were at the Capitol wanting their retirement checks earlier than agreed upon, to overthrow the government, but then their demands were met and/or agreed to. About Teddy Roosevelt led a scientific expedition into the wilds of the Amazon in 1913. First president to invite a prominent black man to the White House. Booker T. Washington resigned cushy-assed sec of the Navy position to start his own regiment and fight on the ground in the Spanish-American War. Was hit in the chest with a bullet in an attempted assassination. After a bit of mayhem securing the shooter, Roosevelt carried on with his speech. Started the national park system, preserving our country's most amazing natural wonders. The White Rose, that is heroics. Robert Smalls, born into slavery in 1839, steals Confederate ship in 1861, disgusses himself as captain, rescues slaves and his families, escapes to freedom, buys a house, runs for Congress, wins. Marie Curie, first woman to win a Nobel Prize and first person to win 2 Nobel Prizes. Chemistry and physics, coined the term radioactivity, discovered 2 elements, radium and polonium, and ended up dying for her work, from radiation poisoning. Her belongings will still be radioactive for another 1500 years. Dead set legend. John Paul Jones, father of the American Navy. Hani Shaft, resistance fighter during World War II. She killed a bunch of Nazis, stole ID cards for Jews, and was generally a badass. In a similar vein, Freddie Overstegen, the unnamed Viking who stood on Stamford Bridge, killed 40 English men, and delayed the English army enough by himself that the other Vikings could prepare a defense.